There was a lot of clicking that time. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Boys from the Baltic Star After Hours. So grab yourself a drink, pull up a comfortable seat upon the Baltic Star, and we'll get the pianist to change the mood to a more relaxed... No, not that song. No. That's the one. Play that one. It's Ben's favourite. Ben is in a bloodthirsty mood tonight. He's talking about stabbing people with swords. So we need the calming music to just take the edge off him. I think it's all that horror he's been watching over the last week. We are live tonight on a different Twitch channel, Ben. We're not going through TTRPG tonight. We're going through board games, which opens us up to a whole new world of people who might wish we were back on TTRPG. But don't worry, we will be tomorrow. But if you like what you see, maybe follow us across sometime. For those that might be watching us, therefore, for the first time, we are Boys from the Baltic Star. We stream Thursdays, Fridays, generally doing role-playing games. Our Friday is our ongoing Traveller, which is a heavily sci-fi game, although we spend most of the time shopping and going to theme parks. Rather than space-based, like Star Warsy things. Although they like shopping as well, I'm sure. They went to cantinas, didn't they? Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. So that's what we do Fridays. Thursdays is a whole range of things, hence today. Saturday night and sometimes Sunday, I've been playing Alien Isolation, aka Locker Sim. But I think the aliens worked out I'm hiding in lockers a lot now. And some Tuesdays, as in this coming Tuesday, which he will talk about at the end, Ben, who is our GM, our almighty GM, it is his night off tonight, by the way, but Tuesday definitely is not his night off because he is doing his behind the screens where he looks at stuff that's sort of RPG and RPG adjacent from like a GM's side of things, really. It is Ben's night off. Fiddles with the first Ben's night off. I've upped the price, Ben, but still, you're already in demand.
We've had Ben's night off, have we?
Yeah, we're not. I don't think we need to. So Len, I don't think we need to chug the whole thing, but a good old go.
A good dunking.
Yeah. The points are running dry. I know. We have to up things. Yeah. We did get Ben very drunk the other night playing this, so which I don't think we should be doing really. So, yeah, have fun. Anyway, hello. I'm the talky one. I'm Luke. I'm in a black t-shirt tonight. There's sleeves for the Guns fans among us. Well, I know. What new channel, new outfit. cover the arms tonight.
All games need sleeves. TTRPGs don't.
I need a way to spend Imperial credits that's about my guns. I think I'll put that in tomorrow if my work quiets down. Next to me, with the noob owning headphones, it is my friend and colleague and comrade Ewan. Good evening, Ewan. How are you?
Good evening. I'm pretty good, thanks. I'm pretty good.
Well, that's good. What's the best thing that happened to you today, Ewan?
That's a very good question. You caught me off guard, Luke. It could be a lot of things. I made it through the day. I didn't fall asleep on the train. Which is always a good thing.
I'm waking up in Dover.
Yeah, exactly. Or London.
Oh yeah, either way.
It's an early sleep or a late sleep. But it's a win. It's a definite win.
Fantastic. And speaking of wins, it's a win because we've got Ben back tonight, fresh from his horror week. It is Ben, the master of all things. That's bigging you up a bit too much.
That should have been the best thing that happened to me today, though. Ben's back.
Ben's back. How are you, Ben?
Oh, I am very well, and had a truly lovely time at Fright Fest, and saw some very nice movies. But more importantly, connected with actual humans in Leicester Square and everything for 5 days. Very, very nice. And I do want to say thank you to our sort of regular Baltic Star crew members for being the adult supervision for Luke and Ewan while I was away, because it could have gone horribly wrong without your help. So, so thank you very much.
Well, like the talented Mr. Clipley. over there. Yeah, she really helped. It's a pleasure to have
you guys definitely need adult supervision.
Oh, virtual fist bumps to suck fiddles. Oh, I might do a fist bumpy one as well. So tonight, yes, we are separate on. Hey, Miss Skiss, you all right? We are under the guise of board games. Why are we under the guise of board games, Ben?
Ah, right. This was actually something that occurred to me, I think, yesterday, a bit as a random thought, because we haven't really, though we've sort of started almost playing board games a little bit in my absence. I don't know if you'd really count the Quiet Year as a board game, but it's board game-esque, isn't it? It's a bit more storytelling than most, but it's kind of board game like, and it just occurred to me that among the three of us, I contain within my property and within my experience almost no board games, but that's not true on average. On average, between the three of us, we own all of the board games and play all of the board games. And it seemed to me that maybe we could use an after hours to have a chat about board games, about the ones that you guys play, and that I've even played one or two with you over the years, but also the sort of newer styles of board games, the things that have come along, because it turns out that there are things like meeples which didn't exist when I was a youngster and suddenly are in many board games and things like that. So it occurred to me that maybe we could lean on your experience and I could basically try and largely recover from Fright Fest by sitting here mostly quiet and letting it wash over me.
One of those.
Well, partly because I still haven't got my sleep pattern back.
Yeah, which is fair. Which is definitely fair. How many movies was it in 3 days?
I did 25 movies in 4.5 days, basically.
Yeah, which is some doing, to be fair.
And 3 Burger Kings.
That's kind of more impressive.
The other way around.
Yeah, that's definitely the right way around. 25 Burger Kings in 4.5 days might have been a challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you a fan of the Whopper, Ben? Are you a Whopper man yourself? Or?
Yes, it is. When I go to a Burger King, and bear in mind I hadn't been to a Burger King in 2 years or something, because I think the last time I went was 2 Fright Fests ago, because last year's was online only. It was effectively happening in my sitting room, and I don't have a Burger King in my sitting room. I've begged the council. I've written to the corporation, but it just doesn't happen. I don't know why.
Is it Richie Rich where he's got McDonald's in his house? That is not any of us. Just for anyone out there watching. Yeah.
No, they raised all these objections about the quantity of passing trade that would come past my sitting room, and but yes, I am an old-fashioned sort of boy, and when it comes to a Burger King, it's go Whopper or go home, and on a really good day, double Whopper.
Oh, wow! Calm down.
I might have to just eat at work tomorrow now. Other takeaways and delivery services are available.
Naturally, and other people have other taste and all the rest of it. But I have my little loves. And after 2 years without one, I really felt the need to dig my teeth into a Whopper.
Yeah.
Did it stand up to 2 years of dreams?
The first one, I have to say, was an experience that came with heavenly choirs singing above my head and a single beam of sunlight casting down onto where I was sitting in Leicester Square to illuminate the moment. That was special.
Ooh,
by the third one, it was like, yep, it's a Burger King again. But the first one after 2 years was a real treat, yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Not there was anything wrong with the other two. It's just, it's only special the first time,
Yeah.
So you're already being clipped, Ben, for some of your out of context meat love, I think. that's what's been missed from this for the last week.
I just like reading the out of context titles that they're given for the out of context clips. It makes it. It definitely makes it.
Yeah. Well, it just pleased we weren't clipped when I was explaining the various rules of different forms of fencing. So
that is true. Oh no, we wouldn't want to put people through that.
God no.
So, for those of you in chat, if you've been in chat before, you know the vibe. Get involved, chat all the way through. We love interacting. We will generally refer to what's been said either verbally on stream or texting through the chat if it's a bit more off-piste, if that makes sense. And
a very good throwback reference. Well done, Luke.
I try my hardest every now and again.
Yeah, I like that. A good callback.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going back on piece tomorrow. But also, if you are new, so please do that. There's also points to spend in the bottom left. We churn through that first month and a half to get our affiliate so that you lot could freely spend your points. So please look into them, flog on. You can't take them with you, as the saying goes. You can't. It's like being asked to play gigs for, just so more people see you. That doesn't pay your bills. These don't pay your bills, so spend them freely. Make Ben drink. Let's show our love for you, and that's always a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But yes. Was there anything particularly you wanted us to talk about game-wise, Ben, or did you just want your eyes open to the world of games?
Well, I think it is the case, very simply, that I have profound ignorance compared to you guys when it comes to these things. So I was hoping you would be my guides, but I suppose I'd like to start with something about the types of board games you play, because they fall into like families, don't they? There are sort of certain styles of board games that you guys have talked about. Whenever we've mentioned a board game, you always say, "Oh, it's like this one, but with this."
Yes,
you know what
I know what you mean. There are a lot of Fiddles. Mine's the one about getting in the locker, so that's okay. It's me hiding. It suits me. Yeah, so there's a lot of categories. I'm gonna I misread. Let's get out the locker then. Oh no. Let me just locker before we go in. Right. So I'll be clicking around on the internet. So as people talk things out, I will clip around as people want, and we'll do what we need to do. So yes, there are many types. People should be able to see my mouse, what I'm doing, hopefully. So let's click at, we can click at, oh, look, families of games, mechanics of games. Let's go designers of games. Let's look at some mechanics of games.
Yeah, that sounds like a good start.
I prefer the term mechanism, and mechanics someone that works on your car.
Yeah.
We use one mechanism in roleplay, Ben. We use more than one, but...
Okay. Explain.
Dice rolling is a mechanism that you might find in a board game.
Oh, I see. Well, it's obviously an engine.
Yeah.
It is a random number generating engine.
Exactly. I love the dice.
In the case of my dice, a low random number generating engine.
And we're glad of it.
Exactly, yes. We all want the other way. There is a dice roller. Yeah. I'm not going to talk through all of them because we don't need the hours streaming. But as you can see, a whole load of mechanisms in games, just strolling up and down, from pick up and deliver, so that's like completing deliveries, I guess, to taking out loans, to ladder climbing. So that'd be like the game that I'd call Scumbag, where some people start at the bottom around a table and have to win tricks to work their way up and become more powerful in the group. Mm-hmm. And loads of storytelling games, which again is quite role playing. A whole lot of trick taking, like bridge, right?
Yes.
So there's loads of stuff, and then you were talking about families. This site for everyone, by the way, is Board Game Geek BGG, which I've been a member of since 2004. Wow. And it'll give you everything you need to know about all the games that exist ever.
What's your favourite mechanism, Luke?
My favourite mechanism. This is going to be very long clicking for these things. Look, we can have games about pandas, games about pigs, games about snails. There's far too many. But you've asked me a rabbit hole question.
That was the plan.
Curses. My favourite mechanism game. Oh god. For a while, I really liked. Let's find a game that I'll describe it for you. So it's gone very slow. There was for a little while, area control was quite popular. So you'd have a map and you used your forces, whatever they might be, like Risk, right? Where you have to control as much of the map as you can. But then there's a Japanese game based around Japan called Shogun, which is like that, but deeper. Does away with dice. You drop your cubes into a little cube tower, which has some bits that holds. So some cubes come out, some stick there, and that tells you how many people lived and died. But if some of your men die, they're in there for later. So it's to balance it up. So if you kept getting unlucky, eventually you'll get lucky. You'll get lucky. So it's quite nice.
Yeah.
And then a game called Caelus came out, which is not my favourite game, but it was quite big. So every now and again in the board game community, as board game community people would know, a game comes out that changes things, I guess.
Yeah.
Like Dominion came out a number of years ago, and everything became card drawing. Like you have a deck of cards, you play your turn, you can buy new cards. It's a bit like Magic, I guess. It took, you got your deck of cards, you draw it, you do it, then you shuffle them back into the deck and you're drawing again.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like one of the, I don't know if they started in Japan, but I always associate them with the sort of trading card table games.
Yeah, pretty much. It just what their thing was that instead of you having to buy packs, and maybe getting lucky or not, Ewan would know because you've played Magic in your time, haven't you?
Yeah. For my sins.
How much money have you sunk into that game over the years?
Not a lot.
Oh,
I don't know.
It's all right,
isn't it?
Your wife's not watching.
She'll watch it later.
Nice.
Right. Okay.
But yeah.
So the game, Caelus for me was an important one that came out. So I'd played a game that I'm going to shout out some names people might know about. Settlers of Catan is a game. They're called like a gateway game. So a gateway game is a game that. So we've all played in the UK as a kid. You play what? What do we all play as a kid? We play
Ludo and Monopoly and what else did we play? I played Risk as a kid. I played obviously classic, board games. Things like remember Cop It?
I remember Cop It, yeah.
And but also chess and drafts, of course. I was always playing chess and drafts with my father. Not well, you understand, but just because it was something you did over a table.
Fiddles has gone top trumps. True, I played them a lot at school. We had the like the Space Planet alien things ones, which were amazing, and like the heroes and villains and stuff, and like the fantasy stuff.
Top trumps were a genius idea. I don't know who came up with that, but that's a genuinely clever idea. You only needed like 50 cards and maybe 5 or 6 categories, and there was enough variation in there that you could really have quite a good game for a while until everybody wised up to which one was definitely the best in each category, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And once you learn it, you learned it. Frustration, yep, that's the poppy thingy one, isn't it? Then I went Monopoly, unfortunately. He also went for Rosk, classic game Rosk. We all played Rosk as kids. Hero Quest, and I'd say the best thing about Hero Quest is the broadsword. Or broadsword. Oh, what's that name? Bardic Broadcasts. His YouTube channel is amazing. Check out Bardic Broadcasts. He does a review of Hero Quest and loads of unboxings. Well, he's not been busy recently. He did unboxings of some miniatures games and some big statuettes and that. He's a very funny Australian guy. At least he sounded Australian, might be a Kiwi. What else we got? Guess Who? Of course, Guess Who.
So, that's true.
We had any Cluedo yet?
We haven't had Cluedo yet.
Oh God, yeah. My parents and I used to play, when I was quite little, used to play Cluedo on New Year's Eve. Because New Year's Eve was the night when I still had a bedtime.
Yeah.
I probably still should technically have a bedtime because I'm not very good at this, freewheeling grown-up thing. But I don't have a bedtime and haven't had for quite a lot of decades now. But when I still had a bedtime, my parents used to let me stay up on New Year's Eve to see the New Year in, which meant that there were like 2.5 hours to kill between when I would normally go to bed and when I would have a glass of champagne. And we played every year. We played Cluedo.
And that's the thing, right? A lot of these games come from these sort of happy or not so happy, depending on the people, memories, especially around like Christmas and New Year, right? Where the dad or the uncle say, "Okay, then I'll play," and you get this sort of, and so kids get this memory. Definitely. So we have our Connect Four massively, Operation Buckaroo. Look at your Communist Guess Who, which we need to try at some point. That sounds good.
It does sound good. I'm going to Google it right now.
Does this person look like they're really committed to the party? That's so good.
Do they have a wild bushy beard?
Yes, yes, most of them
with grey streaks.
That's me. How dare you? Especially here. Backgammon and Trivial Pursuit. So that's like your childhood games, and like for a lot of people, absolutely fine. We play them. We've played them to adult life. They're still fun to play, some of them. But of course, games change and games evolve, and you get new party games that come out. So that Rapido and Pictionary came out a while back, but then you get the new ones that was kind of like had the dough but miming. What's that called? Something Cadu. I forgot what it was called. But newer versions come out. But other games started coming out from Germany mostly, and a lot of these became known as gateway games. They were the games that had something in common with those games, but added a bit more strategy, or if people really just wanted a little bit something more. See, they were meant to be made after the war. Germany turned totally against war games and conflict games, whereas the US and the UK put out a lot of war games. And certain things in Germany are actually banned from being used in games, of course, after the war. Not wanting to get too political, but so they made a lot of economic games and games working together, or games where you compete to win, but there's no direct conflict.
Okay.
So you have games like Settlers of Catan, where you all end up on a new island, and you're competing for different goods. So wood, sheep, or people have different names from bricks or clay. And that I don't know if you've ever heard the "Have you got wood for my sheep?" or "I've got wood for your sheep" sort of thing. That was sort of a ha 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 Catan sort of joke that people used to do in their trading. So, I've got wood for your sheep. So you put things down depending on the dice that rolled, the number, so that you'd roll. The coolest thing was every hexagon had a number between 2 and 12 on it, and if that dice rolled with 2 dice, that number rolled, and you had a town next to that square, you got one of those goods. So if there was a bricks with an 8 on it, and an 8 got rolled, and you had a building next to it, you got a brick.
Yeah.
And if a 7 was rolled, there was a robber, and then you got to move the robber to someone else's square and take one of their cards.
Yep.
So what it did was it brings in these rolling 2 dice, which you're used to from other games, and taking resources and gaining things, which comes about in other games, but sort of made it into like an hour-long game that was a little bit different, I guess.
Yes.
And then from there, other games come out. So there was, and I've totally forgotten what it's called. And I think you've got it. It's the one where you're building a town with cards that you roll the dice, and you get the goods depending on the dice number that gets rolled.
We're building a town with cards.
You're sort of getting cards. I'm sure you've got it. It's got a cartoonish Japanese graphics on it. Machikoro.
Machikoro.
Machikoro, there we go, Machikoro. So that sort of took it and went a bit different. So you start only rolling 1 dice, but when you buy certain buildings, you get to roll 2 dice, right? So it sort of builds it up as you go.
Engine building.
Engine building. There, that sounds good to me. So you take Settlers of Catan, which becomes that gateway, and then other games naturally build off it, right? They try and like do the same but different. And then you've got Carcassonne, which is famous as well, where you have tiles. That's where the meeples come from, Ben.
Okay.
And you each have a different set of meeples, and you play down tiles that are meant to look like the medieval Carcassonne. The cover shows that sort of thing, and you place your little meeples to control towns or roads or farms, and then you score points as those things are completed. And then your meeple comes back to you, and so you're making this beautiful sort of jigsaw vista together, but competing with points. And there's some very gentle competition. He says it's not gentle at all, about trying to take control of towns from people and that. But it's all very abstract.
Yes, I mean, like all games, the challenge is never in the game; it's always in the opponent. Well, if the game's any good, the challenge is all in the opponent. The game is almost irrelevant; it's the person you're playing, and as long as they allow you to do that, the mechanics just have to be interesting and engaging, don't they? To allow you to actually play against your opponents, or collaboratively in some cases.
Oh, indeed, and there's some excellent collaborative games which we can look at in a bit actually, because I own a few that I'd like to play more of.
Yeah.
And we live in the same town, so
we do. It is a convenience actually that we are literally so close. We are about 20 minutes walk apart.
Exactly. So we do it. So when so I talked about Dominion, but when Caelus came out, it had what's called worker placement, and the idea is you have like a certain number of workers that you then get to put down to complete different actions on your turn, and then when they've all been placed, you get to bring them back again. But you're competing for the turn, so maybe only one person can use that space, and maybe only one person. So there's another game, Agricola, which. So once Caelus had come, it sort of opened the floodgates, and it was a very popular mechanism. So a lot of games started using it. So Agricola was number 1 in the board game charts. Yeah, it's not quite Top of the Pops, but it's there. For people absolutely loved Agricola. And that was worker placement, but on a farm. You each had farms.
Well, Agricola kind of implies that.
Exactly, right? My internet's not normally slow, guys. It's just because I've got a really old laptop and OBS open. So the idea is you build your farm by sowing fields and raising livestock and so on. And you've got a little family. But each thing can only be done by one person each turn. So there's squares. So only one person can plough a field. Only one person can pick up some bricks. Only one person can get some wood and so on each turn. So you're trying to work out how much someone else will want it, whether you should do that this turn or next turn.
Yeah.
So it's like you're sending him out.
It sounds like there should be a Jurassic Park version of that where you're trying to raise dinosaurs.
There are some, aren't there, Ewan?
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I don't know the names, but I've definitely seen that kind of building dinosaur pens and getting your dinosaurs into some kind of park.
Excellent.
I don't know if anyone in chat knows the name of the game, but I've definitely seen it. It's at least looking the same.
It's like you're a visionary, Ben. It's like you know what needs to be done, and people make it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very inexperienced. I mean, I have played a very small number of games over the years, and most of the ones I've played are very old-fashioned. I played dominoes and drafts and things like that, and these are not what you call the cutting edge of game design. And I'm not criticizing them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're fine games. They're classics for a reason. But there seems to be a much wider range out there now than there used to be, and many more different. I apologize, Luke, but mechanics which allow. When I was a kid, most games had very straightforward rules, and quite a lot of them were basically pure luck. Things like Snakes and Ladders, for all the fact that we played it as a kid. essentially, you might as well just roll a few dice and count up and see who's won the game by the points they rolled. It's pure fluke, isn't it?
Oh, massively so. And I think for some people that's absolutely fine, right? And then for other people they want more. For me, it depends on the length of a game. So if a game is 15 minutes, it can be as lucky as you want it to. Especially if it's funny, it brings a bit of laughter. But if you're playing a game, like you and I played a game before lockdown, didn't we, Ben? You came over, we played Twilight Struggle.
That was awesome.
And it was about 4.5 hours long, wasn't it? And then we pulled it before the end as well.
Yeah, we essentially we didn't play it to its. I mean, we played it, I think, to the point where we knew you were going to win. But we allowed the revolution to end without the actual bloodthirsty bit at the end.
Yeah, exactly. We did, and the important thing is there's a certain slight amount of luck depending on what cards you get drawn for that decade or whatever it was, that turn. But it's so carefully balanced, and there's so many options. Even if you get a bad card that doesn't help you at all, you can use it for something else, right? Each card had 3 uses you could use for it. So it never sucked.
No. The the challenge with that one was all in the choosing the right moment to play the right thing.
Yeah.
Because what you had was always going to be useful if you used it at the perfect moment, but would be much less useful if you played it at the wrong time or did the wrong thing. So it was an intellectual challenge, but it was also a really cool game because of the setting and the environment, and there were little mini narratives that popped up during it about the relationship between the powers and how they were dealing with their own struggles internally. It was quite fun. It was like a little retelling of a period of history that is, well, almost within my literal memory.
Yeah, I remember the Berlin Wall falling when I was a kid, so...
Yeah, I was practically at that party.
Yes, of course. Lovely times. Well, not interesting times, at least. Oh, hang on. Whose side am I looking at it from here?
Not playing the game now, are you?
Looking at that fan there. Me and you have played a similar game based around East and West Germany, haven't we, Ewan?
Yes.
Yes. I can't remember what it's called. The Sinn das Volk, I think it's called without looking at it. Which I played West Germany and Ewan played East Germany. And it was about trying to prove which one was best, I guess, at the time. But it was interesting because the way it worked was very different for both of us, Ewan, wasn't it? We both had different focuses, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say because we only played it once and I didn't play the other side, but it looked as though you had a very different feel to what the game you were playing to the game I was playing. I don't know how true that is. I mean, it's the same game, but there was a lot of different flavour and a lot of that sort of worked mechanically different.
I was building a lot of stuff because I had the money for it and kind of leaning on you to make things hard for you.
Yeah.
I think. Whereas you were having to react quite a lot and bring through the socialists and things, I think, if I remember correctly. So there was, I was very jealous of you, quite frankly. and you won.
I did.
Yeah. And the grass is always greener on the other side of the wall, you know that.
Well,
exactly that.
But it was good fun. And that's kind of like a Twilight Struggle light.
Yeah.
Is that right? It's not quite as in depth. But it certainly filled enough. It had enough content and enough strategy in, for me, certainly. It's good fun.
Now, one I have played, I don't think it's actually that new, but I have played Lords of Waterdeep. Which I did quite enjoy, partly because it's Dungeons and Dragons themed, so I knew much of the mythos behind it. But I thought also the mechanics were quite fun.
That was about based in the town, right? And then you had your adventures that you sent out to do different things. Is that correct?
Yeah. So each turn you could put, someone in the docks and someone in a pub and someone, doing things to gather you potential point value that you could then trade off.
Hmm.
And I think it's interesting because what seems to have been coming up already is about the interest of theme. We're all, I think, as role players, theme is of course important in the storytelling, and so the Waterdeep game, Lords of Waterdeep, could have been themed as many other things, but the best ones feel like the gameplay and the theme fits right for it. Yeah. So I'm guessing to you it felt right, like how it worked. Yeah, like it's not just this green cube is going to this space. It's like this guy's going to the pub.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the more you abstract it, the more universal it becomes. If you're dealing with something like chess, where you don't really have to have a narrative at all, it becomes universal. But it also becomes so abstract that there's no sort of emotional attachment to it. So I think there's a fine line to draw. You have to create something that will draw people in, but then not become too obsessed with its own environment and still be a fun mechanical game.
Definitely. I think I find games that as I get older, as I've played more games, there was a sort of a joke when I was first starting about trading games in the Mediterranean. All games were like trading games in the Mediterranean. But now for me, I love a game that almost feels like they said, we're going to make a game about this. How can we make the mechanics fit it? Whereas it seemed to used to be, here's a really good mechanical game. What theme should I slap on it?
Yes.
And so now, like the games I really love, there's a really good worker placement game where you work. It's called Pret-a-Porter, and you work as fashion designers and putting together fashion for 4 main fashion shows: London, Paris, whichever the American one is.
New York and Milan. Probably.
New York and Milan, yeah, so forth. So, and they're sort of your scoring phases, right? There's dominant struggle, which is about kind of evolution. You all play different animals, types of animals, so mammals, reptiles, amphibians. As the Earth is sort of evolving, so yours are sort of gaining different strengths and skills. Really interesting. I think I tried to get. Were you there, Ewan, when we drunkenly tried to play the zombie game, Dead of Winter? Were you there that night?
Yes.
Yes. I've played it many times, but for some reason we decided to try and play it very late. But that's a zombie survival game. There's a lot of zombie games, but in this one, you're a little group trying to keep out the zombies, but you have to go to different buildings to get supplies. And you've got an overall thing you're all trying to achieve, but then little secret missions as well. So again, they could all be played with different themes, but the theme really is central. Got going about German politics. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, you can make a game out of anything in the same way that you can make a story out of anything. You've just got to do it right, haven't you?
No, for sure. And I think that's the key. There's a lot of games out there. Like if you go on Board Game Geek, there's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, and there's a lot that have fallen by the wayside because it's not worked quite right. I guess is what it is. I guess.
I often wonder because there are quite a lot of games that we've talked about that have. I think it's probably fair to say, and I'm not doing anybody a disservice or pigeonholing anybody when I say there is a certain socialist aspect to some of the games that you guys have played. Particularly you, Luke, but collectively, on average, we have played a lot of games that have a Soviet or Cold War or socialist theme, or even when they're collaborative and what have you, the idea is very socialist or communist in terms of its structure. But I do wonder if in a place like the US, where socialism is less fashionable, shall we say, if those kind of games do less well. I'm genuinely curious if in the US people say, no, we don't want those socialist games. We'll play Monopoly, please.
Which, ironically enough, was originally designed, wasn't it, as a
landlord's game, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The irony is thick.
But I can imagine that's very much the case. I imagine if you look at the sales figures for certain games, certainly in the US, they would not do as well.
Because pure game players who are interested in the mechanics more than the story, that they wouldn't really care what the thing is. They're perfectly happy to play woolly mammoths trying to climb a hill. It doesn't matter what the story's supposed to be. It's the game mechanics. But I'm sure there must be a more social aspect where they're trying to play them in order to get into a mood or get into a period of time or whatever. And they're much happier playing ancient Rome than they are playing Soviet Russia.
Yeah, I imagine that's a lot like wargaming, right? So wargamers will play the era that they're comfortable, they enjoy.
Yes, that's definitely.
And again, TTRPGs, I think, is similar. I think people can have varied tastes, but somebody's go-to system will probably be the setting that they most prefer, rather than the mechanics, although it does play a part. So.
I can remember many years ago, as a member of a wargaming club, there was an entire corner of the sort of church hall we used as our venue, where 3 or 4 tables were set up every week, played by a little subset of the club that only ever played the one kind of game, and they all played just among themselves, and they all played Napoleonic battles exclusively. That was the only thing they were interested in. We were doing war games based on everything from Vietnam and Alien to a recreation of the movie Die Hard as a war game. Yeah. Anything we could think of, we'd try. But that little corner, all they did was recreate the Battle of Quatre Bras over and over and over again, because that was what they were into. People have their own, as you say, their own interests.
And you mentioned Napoleonics. That one is probably mine, mostly of for board games. Like this one that's just come up, Command and Colors Napoleonics, which is like a block war game. So you have, it's not there, is it? You have a map which you lay out for the battlefield, and then you have little blocks that represent it. Like, there's even someone there with a CCCP t-shirt playing. Can't get away from
it. Classic Napoleonic Wars.
Yeah. Well, you can play, and then you get the main box, which is the British, the French, and there's Portuguese. But then you can buy expansions. So I've got the Spanish and I've got the Austrian armies as well, which brings up all the battles in Spain and all the battles in Austria as well. So I've got that, but then I've also...
A couple of famous ones in those places.
Oh, massively so. just 1 or 2, right? But there you go. That's like a block war game they play out. But then there's other games I've got. I've got Napoleonic Wars, which is like a little... You'd probably like that one, but that's about 6 hours. That uses cards like Twilight Struggle. And then you play the different armies moving around Europe. Then I've got a solo one where you play as Napoleon and you play about 8 of his campaigns. I've probably got about I'm showing myself up here. I've probably got 8 or 9 Napoleonics games.
Yeah,
all in all, because it's a fascinating era for war for me. It's still at a stage where it's packageable and definable, I guess. There are certain types of units. The battle ended at the end of the day most of the time. Some of the Russian ones were very unpleasant, deeply unpleasant, and rolled over. So it was all, and the strategies were very specific. So it lends itself, I think, quite well. And it was mostly centralised in Europe. So if you're trying to do a map of it, you can be quite zoomed in as well.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I mean, you're right. Though it includes Russia, it only includes European Russia. It basically includes nothing above the Baltic Sea. It includes nothing south of Spain and Italy. You don't have to worry about North Africa for Napoleonics. You don't have to worry about Far Eastern Europe in the southeast, which gives you one of those convenient sort of corners of a board where you can put like a map legend or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
Completely covering Romania and places like that because nothing ever happened there. It's one of those kind of things, which is really, really handy for the purposes of an era. I think probably the best thing for a gamer, though, is that everyone agreed on exactly what all the tactics were, and they all played them exactly the same way at the right moment. So the infantry formed into a square when they were charged by cavalry. And the only question was how well drilled your infantry were and whether they could get into a square fast enough before the cavalry got there, sort of thing.
Yeah. Could your line fire enough rounds per minute to see off an advancing column?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And the simple nature of the tactics meant everyone knew exactly what the enemy was going to do all the time. And then you had, people who cheated, like Wellington did. He cheated by hiding people in the long grass. It's very unfair.
Like lying men down behind a hill. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's frankly unsporting, to be honest. And on a more strategic scale, pulling back over and over again and burning the earth as you went in order to draw Napoleon deeper and deeper into Russia, then having a fight at Borodino, which, depending on your definition, he arguably even wins, but loses him all of his supply chain and means that he now has to begin retreating. And then, as you rightly say, instead of fighting pitched battles in the middle of the day, sending people out to attack him at night with knives in the dark. I mean, it's unsporting, frankly. It's not cricket.
It's not cricket. It's very far from cricket. But I think you can see why people play a war game. There's interesting historical flavour. There's interesting ways to go about it. Like you say, there's games that can just play it very straight like that, and there's other games where you can be a bit. Some games allow you to be a bit sneak attacks in the night and things like that. Yeah. So there's something for everyone. There's enough games out there now, but there's something for everyone. Really.
What was the one that we played, Luke? That was more like card drafting, but themed around was it World War II?
Oh yes. Oh, it was called something. I could go out. I could get out my chair. Undaunted.
You need a chair to see the ones at the top. Yes.
Undaunted Normandy. Which was
very good fun.
This was a combination of war game, but in small battles. But you have how do you describe it, Ian? What did you say? It was.
It's like card drafting, I thought, or deck building. You had to build, which is essentially building an engine. You have to build the most streamlined deck of cards so that when you draw cards out of your deck, you have the actions that you want to be able to use on the troops that you have, I guess. Is that the best way of... Might not be the best way of describing it, but it's a way of describing it.
But that makes sense.
So you can tie up the sort of tactical elements with the strategic elements at the right moment to win the battle.
Yeah, so I was so you have certain units on the map. So it's squares that they put jagged, so it's like it becomes like hexes. And so one's the Americans in this one, one's the Germans, but you can get another one in North Africa, which is the British. And in your hand, it tells you what you're going to start the battle with. So in your hand, you'll draw some cards that are for each unit on the battlefield. But I think it was pretty much man for man, wasn't it, Ewan? Or it was like very few men. It's just a few per unit or something.
Yeah, it was. I think it was units possibly.
And so you had a few riflemen, and then there'd be a lead, like a sergeant or something, some scouts. The scouts can move further, but they don't attack so well. Their defense is better, but they need to roll higher on a D. Is that a D10? Just
tragically, this game is dead to me.
Yes, D10s. I was going to say, oh no.
Visible on. I can see D10s all over the screen.
Yeah.
We need to move on. We don't want to talk about it. But you're right, it's other interesting. It brought some luck in that, you could get into range and keep firing. But a lot of war games do base itself on luck because it is like there's a lot of things at play, isn't there? You might hit someone 9 times out of 10 and then miss them at the important time. So
a traditional tabletop war game, the kind played with miniatures and sort of complex terrain and all the rest, the ones I played when I was a kid, with painted cavalry and all the rest of it, those kind of things. There is obviously an enormous amount of luck, but the sheer number of dice you roll during a game means that the luck pretty much is guaranteed to average out, because you're going to roll hundreds of dice each during the course of a game, which means that what actually comes to pay off is at the absolutely key moments, did you have the upper hand for that specific roll? Was your positioning better? Was your cover better? Did you have more force of arms? At that key moment when you're watching the battle develop, had you picked correctly that this hilltop or this copse of trees or whatever was going to be pivotal, and thrown your forces there in sufficient numbers and placed them in the right way, that you would have the advantage in those key battles? Because to win those, you would lose things elsewhere on the battlefield, but they would prove to be less important. That was the key thing, I suppose.
No, that definitely makes sense. So yeah. So although the dice are making decisions, it's your strategies that are are sort of almost deciding the success in some regards, because you've decided what's the most important part.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, because of the nature of these Napoleonics miniatures players that I knew when I was a youngster, and these were much older men, you understand. I was still at school, but these were people in their 50s and 60s who were playing these Napoleonic tables. In many cases, they were replaying over and over again a set of the same 15 or 20 battles. And they played them, in some cases, hundreds of times. And they literally already established what was the perfect strategy to win for each side at each battle. So when you talk to them about it, they were saying, now we're doing this particular battle, only we're saying that at Austerlitz, Napoleon doesn't have half of his artillery. But what if he did have an extra regiment of light cavalry? And it's like, okay, but it's the same battle. Yeah, it's exactly the same battle, but we're now making Napoleon do it with a different order of battle. And now it changes everything. It means that the best strategy is now different, And they were rewriting history for themselves every time they played. It was a very insular little group, but they obviously loved it. They came back week after week after week to play in complete silence for hours, just staring intently at the table.
That sounds beautiful. Oh man, I'm trying to think. So we do a space role play. We're fans of the sci-fi, aren't we? I know Ewan loves a goblin from time to time.
Oh yeah.
Well, we've each been 100 of them, to be honest, in our time. So
McGoblins for the win. I say that because the McGoblins, in fact, died out.
That is true. McGoblins for the memory,
for the moral victory. I feel.
Yeah, I think there was something more.
There's no substance in that at all, but I'm just throwing it out there.
There was definitely something moral about it. So I'm wondering, when we meet up, there's some sci-fi games that it would be nice to try as a mishmash. Yeah. There's one which I'd love to do, but it's only a 2-player, so I can't do it with all of us, which is Android Netrunner, which is based on an old card game called Netrunner. Mm-hmm. Which is a kind of a card drafty game, a bit magic-y. But what I love about it is cyberpunk, so of course it's right up my alley. But the idea is one person plays a corporation and one person plays a hacker, a runner. So it's very much got that feel, that of the novels of the time and stuff. And the corporation has their own deck of cards. The runner has their own deck of cards. And the corporation is trying to kill the runner. The runner's trying to hack enough stuff from the corporation. So the corporation lays out different branches. It's what's it called? Research, Thinking Research A&R and they've got like their certain servers that they're trying to protect. Some things they draw pile and so on, and they protect it with what's called ICE, which is like antivirus, I guess, but vicious antivirus. And then the hackers build in his or her computer and their stack, and then they make a run on the different servers to try and hack it in. But depending on what ICE has been there, the corporation can cause brain damage or meat damage, to their body, or send people around to get them while they're hacked in and stuff. So it's really it's a game that you're just playing cards, but it feels like you're doing it.
Yeah.
Which is utterly ludicrous. Of course, you're not being like, I'm making a run. I've got to make sure I put this onto my computer to make it work. Oh, this will stop this if he's got, So I think there's a lot of games that I think would work for us because they're thematic. And there's there's a game called Generation 7, which I'd love for us to work through.
Okay.
It is a game. So this is another mechanism that came out. And the first one that did it, I think, was Risk Legacy, where the idea was, as you went along, you literally changed the map. And you tore up cards. Things happened. Maybe if someone dropped a nuke, that part of the map is for scarred for the rest of the game. Different things came up. So the game evolved over 10 or 12 plays. And at the end of it, this was the map you were left with. If you wanted to play the game again, you had to play it with that remaining map. So everyone's was a little bit different. So they did that. Then Pandemic, which is quite well known. That brought out like a legacy one. Pandemic was about stopping viruses. Very fitting.
You're kidding.
No, indeed. You had to stop four viruses. But then they did Legacy of Pandemic, where you play a year, 12 months, and things happen. And depending on what happens, it gives an outcome. And then the next game starts and something, that looks at what happened after that game finished and so on.
Yeah.
So,
well, Pandemic was either going to be about diseases or pandas. There was only one way that could go.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Fiddles, Madagascar. Yeah, that's based on what is the game that was based on? The joke about the mayor of Madagascar. There was an app game where you try and infect the whole world. I can't remember what it's called, but you could never get Madagascar unless you started there. You could never get it because it's the mayor was close all the ports, no one's coming in. So it's a bit of a meme. There you go, Pandemic. The one I'd love us to play is called Gen 7.
Yeah.
And in Gen 7, we are on a big spaceship that's gone out to find a new Earth because, Earth's going wrong. And you play as the 7th generation of people on the ship. So it's the first generation that everyone was born in space, and it will be the generation that dies out. No one will make the destination, if that makes sense. It's like the forgotten middle generation.
Yep.
And in it, things happen, and so it plops you in. You're at a deep sleep, and you've got your people, and you've just got to complete tasks on the ship and keep the ship running. But events happen. It's the follow-up to the Dead of Winter one. So there's cards that come up, and you've got to make moral decisions. And depending on what you do, things happen, and you follow this book, and the story can totally change over 10 plays or something like that. And it just seemed quite interesting to play. You have to play with the same people throughout.
Yeah, that does sound interesting, actually. Are there synthetic people called Evan who watch you sleep?
No, there are robots in there that you can get involved with, but I don't know if there's synthetic Evans.
Yeah.
Lock you in
Lock you in pipes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Classic Evan.
I see his face when I dream.
Whenever I close my eyes. Suddenly I feel that we need a global conquest game about pandas trying to take over the world called Pandemic.
It feels good. It feels like a nice
So if you guys can come up with some
Satire.
rule sets, we'll try and turn that into an online one that we can do as a website.
Panda-emic. I like it.
Yeah.
Fiddles has mentioned Munchkin and Flux. Yes. Played both. There's lots of different forms of Flux. Flux, I don't know if you've ever played it, you two. You must have, haven't you?
I have indeed, yes. I've played Cthulhu Flux.
Yeah.
I almost said something completely different.
Yeah, it's a whole different game. That's an adult game.
But yeah, I very much enjoy it. It's quite a good one. Can be quick, cannot be quick.
Yeah.
But it's quite easy to teach kids, and there's a lot of luck, but it's quite random, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Sometimes
that's fine. There are games. If they're going to be a lot of luck, they have to be fast for me.
Yes.
You can't play a game for 5 hours and then it all come down to who won the toss of a coin.
That's Monopoly, isn't it?
Yeah. If it's
long drawn out. I
Yeah.
got a bad roll, and now I've lost.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's going to take me 6 hours to lose.
if it's going to be luck based, it's got to be done in 20 minutes, and so you can play 4, 5, 6 times in an evening, and everybody's going to get their turn at being lucky.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
No,
For
I
me.
think so. I would agree with that. I think Flux works with it, going back in games similar to it, because it is quick and easy, and I think you play a card and then the rules are always changing. So it's like if you play this card, you lose. You know, or you need to collect this to win, and you collect it and then someone plays a card. No, now you lose.
Which I like. I like the fact that the rules are all...
The rules are like...
So you start off by drawing a card and playing a card, and if the first card you play now says play 4 on it, you get to play 4 cards a turn. And so you can play 3 more cards on your turn, and then it passes.
There was a game like that. I have no idea what it was called, but I played it a number of times at friends' houses when I was a kid. It was one of those things that friends' parents bought them back in the 80s because it was supposed to teach you logic or something like that.
Okay.
And it was a card game. And the rules were everybody, in every round, everybody plays a card.
Yeah.
And you win a trick, like playing whist or bridge, and whoever wins the most tricks wins the game. Okay? But that was the only rule. There was no other rule at all, except those that were literally written on the cards. So you could have a card in your hand that says, if you play a 7, it now is worth a 9. So it beats an 8 now. So you'd have a 7 in your hand, and you say, from now on, 7s beat 8s. They're now worth 9s. So you'd play that, and now that's true for the rest of the game. And then somebody else would have one that says, if you know, but then they're only become the rules once they're on the table. So the rules change with every laying down of the card. So you put down a card that says 3s are worthless. But the card you put down would be a 9 or something, but the card would say 3s are worthless. So from that point, anyone who's holding a 3, it's worthless. And I can't actually remember the details, but in essence, by the end of the game, because obviously if you were sitting 4 people around a table, you had like 12 or 13 rounds. By the end of the game, the challenge was you had to remember what was actually going to be a good card to play.
Oh, man, there's so many rules out there.
Because now there were 40 rules that you had to remember.
Oh, no.
And you often couldn't. So people would literally lay down a card and say, I won that. And you go, the hell you did. And you'd have to go back through the stack of all the cards played and find the one that said, oh, well, that's not worth this anymore. And then somebody else say, oh, but before that, this was played. And it's...
That almost reminds me of a game called... I'm trying to find what it's called. Oh, it's annoying because it's a pizza game. Mamma Mia, it's called.
Okay.
Everyone has loads of ingredients. It's just a card game. So you'll have a card with loads of ingredients, you know, mushroom, pineapple, whatever. And then you play these ingredients face down into a central stack, but you've also got pizzas you're trying to complete that need certain cards. And people say what card they're playing face down. And when you think that there's enough cards in that pot in that oven to complete the pizza you need, you like call it. So you're having to try and remember what you've played, what everyone else has played to complete what's in front of you.
Yeah.
So it feels quite similar in that you're having to like think of the past of what's been played and how your strategy. Because then someone will be like, "Oh man, I can get that." Then someone takes a bit of ham that you needed.
Yeah.
And then, "Oh, was there another bit of ham in there? I can't remember now." And so it was quite interesting.
Yes. And Socks had just mentioned beetle drives, which were a thing when I was a youngster. A lot of beetle drives.
What are beetle drives?
If I explain it to you, I'll spoil the experience. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
We will do one. Do you know what one is, Ewan?
I do not know.
Oh.
Okay. Then at some point we will play a beetle drive, but I'm not going to give you any clues in advance. So please don't look it up.
Okay.
Because
I'm worried now.
Because I will work out.
My search engine is troublesome enough without me looking at things
I will work out how we do this. We may have to wait until we can do it in person, and I know we've started talking about how to do it around to assemble around a table anyway, from a technical standpoint.
That's we've forgotten how to sit at a table with each other.
It's not that. It's making sure that we could work out how to do it and still be part of an online stream,
Yeah.
So we've got some kit and we've got to do some test runs, and over the next few weeks I'm sure we'll be trying to assemble something like that. But I'll tell you what, for a Thursday night or a special at some point, we will do a beetle drive. And yes, I'm pretty sure Socks is right, and everybody who had anything to do with the military had a beetle drive in their past.
Oh, this doesn't involve hazing, does it? I don't like the sound of this.
No, it's a game, and it is
climbing up a hill.
A very innocent game. It's suitable for all the family. There is nothing remotely unpleasant about it. It's just a very simple game. You could literally play on a train or wherever. You could play it in the backseat of a car. You could play it on a train. You could.
Could you play it driving along in a Beetle?
It was a game that you could play anywhere. At the drop of a hat, you could just gather your family around and play it. It's completely innocent. There's nothing. Well, obviously it's competitive. There's always viciousness within families when it's competitive, but it's no more vicious than any other intra-family game.
This is starting to make sense why it would be a family of military in this. What with long drives and having to go places and being able to sit down and just do it and take the opportunity when everyone's around, kind of thing.
Exactly that, and they are. It's not a complicated concept. I promise you.
I like it already. I'm quite excited.
You will grasp the rules very quickly. But we will do it because it's kind of a throwback, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Right,
good.
Write it down, Fiddles. You're like our memory person. I'll say secretary. That's really like you're much more
I haven't got the slightest. I haven't got the slightest idea when we'll do this, but we will do a beetle drive because I'm the poor relation when it comes to board games and things that aren't RPGs. But here is an area in which I can excel.
I'm excited. I feel like you're the teached becomes the teacher. I quite like
That's absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Beetle drive, and that's it.
Yeah,
it's quite thrilling. Don't know. There's no way to top a beetle drive.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what we'll be doing yet, Socks. We'll work it out as best we can. I may have to build a little web tool that we can do it online, or we may have to. I have no idea how to do it yet, but we will try to find a way. At least we'll do a demonstration game to introduce people to beetle drives, but if possible, we'll get everybody involved because the fun is the madness of having multiple people, I think.
I'll tell you what, Fiddles, when we do Baltic Fest 2022, you can come down and we'll all play it in person.
Yeah, that would be good. We should find a place to actually do a meet-up, even if it's only for raising a pint of beer, and we could actually literally play a game at the table. You never know.
See, I've been flicking through all these fancy board games, and the big outcome is we're going to play a Beetle Drive at Baltic Fest 2022. Got to start
You
looking
heard
up.
it here first.
Start looking at pub rooms now.
Oh God, there's more.
A function room. Oh man. That's cheery.
Oh, we got Sparrow. Hello, Sparrow.
Sparrow.
Thank you for joining us.
It's going to be harder for Sparrow to join us at Baltic Fest. Might have to be a video calling.
That's some kind of dedication.
We're not.
Yeah.
We can't.
Well, if we can work out a way to do a Beetle Drive online, I genuinely have no idea how to do that, but I will give it some thought. Then everybody can join in. But if not, we will do it anyway, just for amusement for ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Ben, if you told us what it was, we could help come up with ideas of how to do it online. No, it's all right. I'm only joking.
I'm entirely comfortable with doing that, but honestly, it's such a simple game. It's a family game. It's something you can play with 7-year-olds. You understand? It's not complicated.
That bodes well.
I think once you find out what it is, there will be a joy in your eyes that we need to capture live.
Yeah. It's rare. The joy in the eyes is rare, so we definitely need to capture it. It's not only just world weariness in the eyes. Yeah, look at this game, Ben, that I came across the other day. The guy that runs Board Game Geek site had posted that he'd been playing this the other day. It's called Strike, the Game of Worker Rebellion. This is right up mine and you and Straza. This is like one of your sessions, mate, I tell you. Happy Corp, the richest company in the world, has just unleashed its most evil plan yet, turning Mercury City into an entirely corporate-run metropolis. From the schools to the cyborgs, everything will be owned and run by Happy Corp, and every resident will become a Happy Corp employee. No more minimum wage, no more public services, no more unions. Happy Corp's already begun unleashing its smile drones to convert the city's infrastructure, crush protests, and ensure every resident watches its commercial breaks. Players take on the role of the Strike Council to lead a citywide rebellion of workers against Happy Corp's takeover, while also fighting for better livelihoods for all. Players will grow their ranks, mobilise their workers, and launch strikes around Mercury City. As the Strike Council scores victories for workers, they gain the support of more allies, from the dock workers to the teachers, and build new bases of support from the manufacturing district to the university. I got all emotional reading it.
I feel that the university may be a hotbed of rebellion.
Well, it's a place to go, I feel.
I mean, universities have always had that role in society. It's always been the universities where you found the real radical lunatics sitting in the corners, whispering and growing beards. Not necessarily in that order.
I'm sitting in this corner. I'm growing a beard
and whispering.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, every now and again, and when I play Alien, I whisper a lot.
That's very true.
Yes.
Get that. I want to hunt that down. I've got one that's based around a dystopian one. We can play that as well. Again, we're now we're just planning. We're just planning Baltic Fest now.
We're now just planning Baltic Fest.
If anyone's got any suggestions.
We have been talking about board games. Honest.
We still are, just along a very political thing. You said all my games are socialist. This one, which would really suit you too as well, and it's something I'd like to bring up for people as a thematic thing. Euphoria, build a bit better dystopia. Worker placement to build your authority and take over a dystopia. You're in a dystopian cityscape with a few workers. And you try and become the best dystopian leader. But what's interesting about it is a lot of decisions you can make are either good for the workers and people or bad for them, and you choose the way you want to go. So it's quite interesting. Very pretty as well. Lovely bits. Lovely art. Lovely art. That's just top quality art.
Certainly one of the things I have noticed about newer board games is the feelies seem to be getting better. You seem to get now a box full of really quite elegantly designed counters and things to move around the board. in a way that was unusual when I was a kid.
Ewan always roots for himself. He is he only cares for people in education. Not the binman. That's not true at all.
It's true anyway. To be fair.
Ewan believes in the independence and unionisation of the indoor worker, but the instant slaughter of anyone who works with their hands outside. Yes.
You kill one gardener, and you're tarnished with this reputation.
Have you ever seen the movie Pushing Tin?
I have, yes.
Yeah. It's not a particularly great movie, though. It does have some nice moments. But the best moment in it is right at the beginning, where this quote appears on screen to introduce the fact that it's about air traffic controllers. And the quote says something like, you land 10,000 planes safely, and then you have one little mid-air collision, and you never hear the end of it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah,
Ewan saved many
Ewan
gardeners.
has walked past thousands of gardeners, kills one gardener.
Yeah.
Well, I was worried when we got to Geeka, when we went past that fancy part. I was worried that he was going to jump out, but it was only Cara that did in the end. He went straight past. Right. He did. He left all the gardeners.
Cara went off vlogging and therefore didn't have to restrain. I think it was Stefan, wasn't it, who killed the gardener?
Yeah, sorry, murderous Stefan. In fact,
murderous Stefan. You murder one gardener, and not only do you have to put up with all the gardeners, you get called murderous as well.
You sneak in the poison for one political assassination.
Yeah, and it is worth pointing out, I think, that we are talking about gardeners, not people. So,
apologies to any gardeners who are tuning in, either now or in the future.
Yeah. Yes, I hope that will be taken in the spirit it was intended.
Blame Sparrow. Speaking of, Sparrow just said, I'm too over the top about it. That's true. So the deck of cards that I've been working on this week, which will be available if anyone wants them, I'll finalise the art and show all the art and people can decide. So we've got, people have seen on the Discord, one of the jokers was the dead gardener, but I've updated it so that it's now a top-down Stefan standing over him. So that's a nice joke. So one joker is Fess, of course. But one joker is the gardener. Here's what it is. What, Fess's name or the gardener's name?
The gardener, I do actually
have a name
in the notes, but
it came up later, didn't it?
It was. I think Fiddles canonised it.
Yeah,
Might have canonised it at the start of our drinky night.
Yeah, I believe so.
However, I don't have my notes open. I'm afraid it's not a Friday, so I'm not actually prepared for Baltic Star stuff, if you know what I mean. But I do have it written down. I promise.
He lives in the memory.
Yes, no, anything that gets added to the canon because we've sold an NPC or a name or anything, I promise it does get noted, and it will get used. Sometimes as a random pun on art hung on somebody's wall, but it will get used.
Which, frankly, are the best ones, I feel. It's when you're not expecting them, and then just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
There's a Van Cotswolds.
And I think turning Spiffy Whistle into a prized pet was worth doing.
Spiffy Whistle, good name.
Because when you're confronted with the name Spiffy Whistle, you really don't have any other choice.
And you don't want to say it too often in the night when you've been drinking a few either. It's one for early in the night, Spiffy Whistle.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Yes. So as we're winding down, first of all, can I say I've seen the art that Luke's been firing at us over the last couple of days for these cards. They look amazing, just absolutely staggeringly good fun, and I think they'll be a wonderful thing for us to keep as a memento of our days with this crew of the Baltic Star. So I'm definitely going to be having one. And we were talking about the possibility that maybe we could open up the order to the crew as well, won't we?
It gets cheaper, basically. It makes it better for us.
Sure. Well, as long as we win out every time.
Let's put it like that, Luke.
Whoa.
Say no.
Yeah, come on. I don't know. It's a lovely thing to have, and I know that especially you two, Fiddles and Sparrow, you are the PC Appreciation Society. You mark out over all of them. I've even got Caboodle in there as well.
Have you?
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know Caboodle was in.
Caboodle's on an ace card on its own, and is on one with Rose sort of stroking as well. Double Caboodle. Caboodle's on 2 cards actually, so more cards than
I didn't
most
know
people.
Caboodle was in.
Yeah, 2 aces. The aces were added later when they said 1 ace is Rose, 1 ace is Rose and Caboodle, 1 is Caboodle, and 1 is Greyhill Bast, who is the ace of spades.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's super. Yes, I need to have these cards in my life because, well, they'll be a lovely memento of the campaign.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of fun memories. I can flip over a Queen with Tara on and think of all the vlogs.
The Queen of Hearts. I've tried to match people together as well the best I can.
I noticed you
did?
sort of
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you did.
Mm.
So it's so Sammy and Johnny are together. Cara and Agnar, Stefan and Soraya. Cara and Agnar. Cara's also got Kat.
Yep.
And I think Rose is the heart for that as well. So Kat and Rose with Cara and Agnar. Yeah, so I've tried to combine people into the people they sort of hung around with the most, I guess.
Nice.
I know, I've done a good, and I've even the 9s and 10s are the posters, and I've tried to link the planets to the ones that they had the most. So, so Zoe's is Kiga. No, it was we met her at around the water planet.
Was it Brightsea?
Brightsea, yeah. So she's got Brightsea.
Was it Brightsea? Yeah.
She's got Brightsea and can't remember what the other one was, but yeah. So I tried to make it good. Thanks, Sparrow. I just like doing things. Do you know what I mean? If I'm bored and I've got a couple of hours of an evening, I'd rather do that with the TV in the background and relax than just have the TV as the main thing. You know, so I should be doing the washing up, but you know. I work at home now. I do the washing up for lunch.
Yeah.
Thanks, Fiddles. I thank you. You're a zine behind, aren't you? So you're zine 2. So, coloured in.
Really? That's fantastic. Have you done all the crosswords? The crosswords are brilliant.
Zine 4's crosswords is a particularly good one. The Geeker crossword.
I think it's super, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one I just got, which is number 4, is fantastic. The crossword is good.
It is a tricky one. Sparrow should be. I think Sparrow's up to. No, Sparrow's just had 3. I've got to get Jaffa Cakes tomorrow, actually. On my way to band practice, and then it'll all get packaged up and get sent off with the postcards and things, and then 1 more month for 4. As
long as you're back in time for 11.
I am. Well, I've got the extra half hour now. It's easier. I feel less stressed.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. It does buy you a little bit more of a window, doesn't it?
We've got an Audi in Faversham now, actually. So, I've given away our town. Now people know our town.
Yeah.
What does it matter? What does it matter? What are you going to come and do? Just come and join us at Baltic Fest.
Also, to be honest, I think it's unlikely people are vectoring nuclear missiles or anything based on missile stream.
Faversham. Well, Ewan did say terrible things about outdoor workers.
Okay, then you want to aim for Osprey?
No, very specific, very, very specifically with a very small nuclear weapon, please, so it doesn't blow me up in there. You just had the worst abuse the most painful abuse there's ever been.
It cuts.
that cuts, right?
If I wasn't so confident about my support of the working people, I might feel hurt.
But he knows he's strong in his dedication to the cause. Mm-hmm. He's all right.
I work in catering, so
yeah.
This is true. I mean, you very much are one of the working people. There's no question about that. That is your role in society.
Exactly.
By dedication to the cause, I meant the band. He loves Andrea. We all love Andrea. not so much Jim. I had a poster of the cause at university, and it's like they knew. They put Jim in the middle so that you can just fold the end over. So they knew.
Yeah.
So they knew. They knew that's what people were doing.
They always did that. Every time they were photographed, they put the bloke in the middle.
Oh, so frustrating. And I wasn't good at Photoshop then. Painful.
I like how your first go-to was, I just Photoshop.
Photoshop.
If it was now, I'd have just...
I Photoshop you and in. Makes me happy.
You see, when I was a kid, Photoshop was called Kremlinization.
It's called scissors.
People actually haven't remembered this, I don't think, but it was called Kremlinization when people were edited out of photographs.
Oh, because that's what Stalin used to have done, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So they were Kremlinized. They'd have photographs of like all of the chiefs of staff of the Soviet Union, and then whichever had become persona non grata subsequently were edited out of the photographs.
Quite well, some of them for back in the day.
Some of them were done brilliantly. You look at the before and after, and you think that's art. That's incredible.
There's one with Stalin by the waterfront or something, and someone's literally, they've done a very good job. Just gone amazing, really horrific, but amazing craftsmanship.
Yeah, I mean, the motives behind it are despicable, but the quality of the work.
Yeah.
No,
indeed.
But yes, Photoshop was called Kremlinization, and people forget this. When somebody says, "Oh, it's been photoshopped," you should say, "You mean Kremlinized."
Well, back in the day when I was doing my GCSEs, I had a friend who was doing photography and would quite often just clip bits out of photos or take something out that they didn't like and replace it with more flowers that were in the background.
Yes,
essentially Photoshop, but with actual photographs that they'd developed themselves. It's quite impressive.
I had not a close friend, but somebody I knew on sort of Facebook and online, who for quite a long time, because he was a big Douglas Adams fan, whenever he had anything in a photo he was posting he didn't like, he would replace it with either a cartoon whale or a bowl of petunias. Literally just very crudely slapped over whatever he didn't want to portray. Yes. And it could be something he didn't like, a person who he didn't want to expose to the internet, because it's not necessarily a bad motivation to take somebody out of a picture if you haven't got their permission to post it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It wasn't a lousy choice necessarily, but it was a curious behaviour.
Yes, indeed. Well, right. I feel like we finished talking about board games. Shall I?
I think we have
diverged a bit, didn't we?
I was considering. I talked on Twitter about us raiding again, so I'm trying to look for somewhere that we can at least give some numbers to. Like we can go to Discord as well and chat, but I just thought having a bit of raid open would be quite nice.
That's a good idea. And while you're looking, let's just remind people that on tomorrow we are doing our usual Boys from the Baltic Star again. After a week off while I was off at a film festival. Many apologies. But we are back to regular scheduling. So our newish time of 11 p.m. UK time, we will be role-playing again as we usually do on a Friday. Are you locker simming over the weekend, Luke?
Yeah, I'll definitely locker sim Saturday, and I might do it Sunday because I don't think I've got a cricket game. So I might double locker sim, and I've got some ideas to follow it up. I did look, I'm about between half and 2/3 now. I've got to speed things up a bit. Like the last couple of sessions have been pretty rubbish for advancing, but
actually the most recent session, the one I couldn't watch live because I was in the middle of going into a film. That one, when I came back and watched it afterwards, it was sheer insanity.
Oh, it's horrific, wasn't it?
So I'm very pleased about that. And yes, Pharaoh, I actually missed you guys terribly, and I was very worried that without adult supervision, these guys would go completely off the rails. But thankfully, it was the crew who stepped up and provided that adult supervision. So thank you very much.
Not Leno though; he brought us down.
I mean, it could have been much worse. Let's be
Leno,
honest.
to be honest, I think can make every situation just slightly worse if he chooses to.
Oh, please clip that.
It's easy to say
Mr.
no,
Clip,
Scott,
Mr.
isn't it?
Clipling.
But yeah, so maybe Saturday and Sunday possibly, but certainly Saturday there'll be Locker Sim. And then on Tuesday, I'm returning to Behind the Screens, and then, as far as we know, after that, so that's 11 o'clock UK time again for Behind the Screens. That's episode 5 of Behind the Screens, and then after that, it's Thursday again.
Ooh.
Oh, it's the Olympics next Thursday.
It is
Day 2 of the Olympics.
Olympics Part 2.
Oh, it's time for Czechoslovakia to shine. I feel the Czech Republic.
Well, I feel, to be honest, Greece has got one of each now, so we can rest on our laurels.
Literally your laurels. Do your best, Mira. I think that I don't know who's top. Has anyone got two? No one's got 2 golds yet. So you know it's winnable. Win a couple of them, and that's you. I think. So especially if Leno somehow wins something.
No. Greece has got a gold, a silver, and a bronze, and I was very happy with that. Truthfully, I thought that's as well as I could have possibly expected.
Well, you were the first, weren't you, to get one of each?
Yeah, I think so.
One of each. In fact, I don't even know if anyone else has.
Oh, what we got? We got weightlifting. I'm looking forward to weightlifting. I like the potential strategies for weightlifting. I like that. Me and Ewan talked about that a bit. Quite like the weightlifting. What else we got? Climbing. That could be interesting. And I can't think what the other one would be. Weightlifting, climbing.
Skateboarding?
No, we've done. Oh, skateboarding. Oh, skateboarding's cool. Yeah. I'm looking forward to skateboarding as well. So we got. I don't know how climbing's going to go. Climbing is could be brilliant, could be weird, but the other two are looking good too.
Because we did the slalom canoe and the surfing.
Yeah.
And one other. What was the other one we did?
Archery.
Archery, thank you, yes.
Archery was the most basic. You just had to wait for the wind. But it was the most basic, whereas the other two were a little bit more strategic, I guess.
It was a good warm-up, though.
Yeah, I thought so.
It was, yeah. Yeah, it was a very, very good first episode. And it's lovely that we get a chance to have another one, especially as it will turn out kind of during the Paralympics this time.
That is true.
Yeah.
Oh, the good timing. Yeah, it must be said.
It was kind of fluky, but it's been nice to sort of have the first one during the Olympics and the second one during the Paralympics. I think that's rather nice.
I agree. Yeah. Right, I need a wee now, so let's do a raid, and we'll go to we'll have some Discord or something as well. So I'm raiding. Right. I know Fiddles said some stuff, but I'm raiding something called Rook and Rasp. The numbers were low, and it looked interesting. So let's go. Let's big them up a bit and say hello, and see what it is. It had some interesting graphics. It might be. I don't know. Let's go there anyway. Let's go. Cheers, guys. Yes. Back tomorrow. Tomorrow night. Tomorrow night,
11 o'clock UK time.
Agnar is floofy right now.
Agnar's always floofy.
Super floofy. Let's go. Right, hang on. Come on. Get involved. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Let's share the love. All about the love. 2, 1. Let's raid. I can stop streaming now.
Nice.